What's going on, everybody out there? I'm Chris, the Dark Avenger of YouTube, and welcome back, finally, after 6 months, to another episode of the Dark Avenger comic book review series, the show where I like to talk about the books I read in the previous week. However, in this episode, we're doing 2 weeks instead of one because I'm going to be covering the first 2 weeks of May 1st, and May 8th, 2024. Plus, I have an issue number 1 I'm throwing in there from April and 2 other books because they're connected to a book that I'm going to review from the week of May 1st, 2024. So we got 3 extra books, 2 weeks worth of books. And before we get into the review, as always, I do want to say in advance, this is a review. These are my thoughts on the books I read. Spoilers will happen. While I don't review the books in great detail in these reviews, I do talk about certain key points that happen in issues. So just be aware in this episode, in future episodes, and even if you go into the past episodes, I do talk about the books and there are spoilers. These reviews are me sharing my thoughts on the books I read and also hopefully helping some of you out there to decide which books maybe you'd like to check out, pick up, start buying and collecting, what have you, reading in general. So that's what the point of these reviews are for. So before we start, before we get into the week of May 1st, I should say, I want to talk about this book because it fell under my radar. And when I heard it came out, I had to grab it. And that is Dick Tracy, issue number 1, coming out of Mad Cave. They're celebrating their 10-year anniversary. When I heard they were making a Dick Tracy comic, I was like, I need to get this. The artwork in this book is spectacular. We have a death that happens, Flat Top's involved. Obviously, you see him below. And this is Dick Tracy trying to find out who the murderer is, why it's happening, and how Flat Top is connected to all of this. And I believe this takes place in the earlier days of Dick Tracy, where he's really starting out. I do love the artwork in this book. I enjoyed it. I highly recommend checking out the first issue. The second issue should be coming out towards the end of this month. And yes, I will be back covering issue number 2. Check it out. Really good stuff. All right. Now we go into the week of May 1st. This book, again, wasn't expecting, but it's Chip Zdarsky. Had to try it out. The Whisper Queen, A Black Sandtail. This is issue number 1. One thing I will say is I do like the characters in this book. I have to be very careful what I show you in this book, though, because there is some mature content in here. So do be careful when this is not something for younger readers. But anyway, I do like the artwork in this book. It's by Chris Anka. Yes, I'm going to say Anka. And it follows this mother who apparently used to be an assassin and was jailed. We don't know why she was jailed yet, but she was on a lifetime sentence for doing something in the past. The king dies. He's murdered. We don't know who murdered him, but apparently the main character's son is going off to find out who the murderer is. But at the same time, there's another person. I want to make sure I get this correct. Their name, the Dark Whisper, is also on the hunt for this person. So in fear for her son's life, she ends up breaking out, getting together with some of her older friends and their kids. And now she's trying to find her son before the Black Whisper ends up catching up with her son. And I really, truly did love this issue. I wasn't sure about it at first. I was like, I don't know. It sounds very Dungeons and Dragons-esque. I mean, I do dig stuff like that, so why not give it a shot? I'm glad I did. I really, truly did enjoy this first issue. I'm looking forward to issue number 2. I do like one of the friend's daughters in here. She's really cool. She's definitely going to be one of the driving forces, I think, in characters for this book. I enjoyed it. Definitely recommend it. Another book. I didn't know this was coming. Dynamite. You surprised me for the second time. You got me with Thundercats, and now you got me with Space Ghost. Wow. So this is the origin of how Space Ghost met Jan and Jace and what happened to Jan and Jace's father in here. We get to see Brax in this issue. The artwork in this book is spectacular. So Jan and Jace don't know who Space Ghost is yet. And apparently Blip has some type of technology, and now everyone's chasing after Jan and Jace because they want Blip and they want to sell the monkey to the highest bidder. Enters Brax and his brother. And Jan and Jace don't know that Space Ghost wants to protect them, so they run away from him. This whole book is about them running away from everyone who's trying to get them, and Space Ghost trying to protect them. And the last page of this book, the ending was spectacular, where Space Ghost, because Jan and Jace now have nobody. Their entire colony is destroyed, and their father is killed. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? We have no one. And that's when Space goes, I got to say this. He's like, you're not alone. I'm here. So good. So good. This book definitely gets a really high spot on this week for me. As far as it could have been pick of the week for me, if not for the main event dropping for Marvel. This definitely is my number one favorite indie book of the week. I will say that. I can't wait for issue 2. We're going to play catch up now to get to the book that was released this week. We're going to talk about Action Comics number 1064 and Superman. Did I get it right? Yep. And Superman issue number 13, parts 1 and 2 of House of Brainiac. Part 1, Brainiac attacks, along with apparently a bunch of people from Lobo's. Now, I thought Lobo killed his entire, before reading this book, you know, you thought that Lobo killed his entire, species. Turns out he didn't. And they're working for Brainiac. They attack Metropolis. Brainiac ends up taking every single super-powered person in Metropolis, including Lex Luthor, including Lex Luthor's daughter. So the only ones left on Earth are Lois, Superman, Steel, and Steel's daughter, Natasha. That's it. So they all get abducted in this issue. And then here, Superman goes after Lobo because he thinks Lobo's somehow involved with Brainiac. We find out there's something wrong with Brainiac. And to protect Lex's daughter, because Brainiac thinks Lex's daughter can help fix him or fix the problem, Lex offers Brainiac Superman in order to protect his daughter. And then, of course, I'm not going to spoil it, but some people do end up escaping. However, they end up in a tiny predicament. Also, Superman, I didn't show any artwork from Action. Let me show some artwork from Action before I go into Superman. So, here's Action. Action actually has a perfect page right here. I do like when the whole series or the whole story arc opens up. It just has Superman being Superman, and I love that a lot. The artwork in Action, really, really good. The story is, by the way, by Williamson. That was Action. Now we go into Superman. I'm getting back into the swing of these reviews. It's going to take a hot minute and a couple of episodes, so forgive me. But anyway, one thing I really liked was when Superman and Lobo teamed up to find Brainiac, where Superman gets his own bike. And again, Green Lantern also is involved in this book, in this event, and same thing with Power Girl. Didn't read those books yet. However, I do like that they mention in this book about the quarantine. I showed it actually already. The quarantine that the Green Lantern Corps and the United Planets put up around Earth to kind of like isolate it from the rest of the universes. So really cool stuff. I don't want to spoil the ending, but really great, strong part 2. So that's it. This was the last book that didn't come out during the first 2 weeks of May. Released on May 1st was Superman House of Brainiac special. This is the House of Brainiac special. It's got a bunch of stories in here. It has a story about Bibbo, a story with Perry White, and it's all surrounding what just happened after issue number 2 with Superman off planet. You've got Perry White going up against Garen Blake, who wants to get rid of all the aliens in Metropolis. Bibbo, I haven't read Bibbo in such a long time. It was so good to see Bibbo. And then the final story connects with Absolute Power and Brainiac's connection with Amanda Waller, and apparently a deal that they struck or will be striking soon, something that he's working on for Amanda Waller. And it kind of ends right there. So I love House of Brainiac is going to lead into Absolute Power, so I'm really looking forward to it. The special, really good stuff. Did enjoy the Bibbo story, and I like the last story that's going to be leading into the big event at DC Comics. So next, we're going to have a digital book I read because I don't have the physical copy yet. Deadpool Wolverine World War III issue number 1. And one thing I will say, and I'm going to mention it when we get into March 8th, I love how there are nods to it in the Deadpool book. But anyway, Deadpool has a target in Montreal, but Wolverine was asked by a friend of his. He has a phone, he mentions, and the phone only rings when very close friends need his help. And somebody asked for Logan's help, so him and Deadpool end up colliding. Deadpool's trying to kill the person that he has a bounty on. Wolverine is involved in this as well. And it just becomes this whole like team up / fight at first. Deadpool goes his way, Wolverine goes his way, and then Wolverine starts to question why Deadpool's involved. So he starts to track Deadpool. He tracks Deadpool to his place and ends up getting invited to somewhere else where Deadpool was taken. And apparently Deadpool was abducted somehow and is being controlled. And the book kind of ends with the two of them facing off with one another in a kind of entertainment surrounding area. Like it's set up for them to fight. That's the whole. It's kind of like Fight Club, except unwilling participants. Really liked the first issue. Really loved the artwork. It is really shaping up to be an excellent miniseries, in my opinion, at least. Definitely recommend it. If you're a Deadpool or a Wolverine fan, or if you're both of their fan, it's a perfect book for you. So I'm loving it. I'm looking forward to the next issue. And then finally for this week, and has to go, my pick of the week for May 1st goes to Blood Hunt issue number 1. I did a full comics and coffee review of this book, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but dark matter, people who are connected to the dark matter universe explode. The sun is covered. Vampires attack. The Avengers get betrayed by someone. And we get introduced to 6 new characters. I don't want to show the artwork in this book, so we're going to show the artwork in this book, the Safe book. Because I don't know how YouTube is. We get introduced to 6 people. McGrim, Cruel and Unusual, Damascene, and Smoke Eater, and Bloodstorm 1. And we think they're the antagonists of the book. However, we find out they're working for someone. Lo and behold, some of the... we already get a couple of deaths in this book. Here's your spoiler. We see the death of Thor, and we see also the possible death of Black Panther. All to get the Avengers out of the hidden city. Or, I'm sorry, is it the hidden city? I keep forgetting what the name of this city is. The Impossible City. Fast forward, we're in Doctor Strange's house, and that's where Blade shows up. Blade is, of course, the epicenter of everything, and that's where we find out who the real leader who started the whole thing is, and that's Blade. Huge twist. And again, I don't think dead is dead here, because again, if you're bit by a vampire and you come back to life, as long as the one that bit you dies, you're no longer a vampire. And I think that's how they're going to end up twisting it, so that whoever dies and is turned into a vampire, gets freed. And then we also have the red band version, which gives you a couple of extra pages, a lot more gore, very explicit. My favorite was this version. I did like the extra gore, the extra explicit, and the extra pages. It's not something that's required. The extra pages just add fluff to what's going on in the story, just extra dialogue and extra things that are going on around the world, but not something that if you don't read this, you're going to miss out until you get to issue 2. It's just extra. And I'm fine with that. So looking forward to issue number 2. That definitely was my book of the week for May 1st. Now we're going to go into May 8th. And I had more books of May 8th. So let's try to get through these because I know I don't want to make this episode too long. So first book is Ain't No Grave, issue number 1. I heard a lot of people talking about this. So I said, okay, I'm going to try it. Wow, I loved it. The main character finds out that, spoiler, she's dying. So she was a bandit at one time, turned normal mom, wife. The person she ends up marrying made her into a better person. However, when she finds out she's dying, she goes back. She gets back on the saddle, and now she's going after death. She is going to kill death before death can kill her. I loved it. The artwork was really, really, really good. I absolutely thought the artwork was one of the great points to this book. Definitely something I would highly recommend everyone try. It took me by surprise. By the way, Ain't No Grave. Oh, shoot, I forgot. Okay. Anyway, we're going to go into the next book because I forgot the point I was going to point out with Ain't No Grave. Geiger, issue number 2. Jeff Johns, Gary Frank. Wow. It's good to see Jeff Johns again, by the way. Wasn't expecting that for Geiger, but we're in Geiger issue number 2. I do not have issue number 1 with me. I read issue number 1 when it came out last month. Very good start. And now we have Geiger, who is chasing after a bounty himself in this book. Artwork, Gary Frank. Do I really have to tell you guys? Do I really? It was really good. And we find out that the bounty is actually just protecting a family. And Geiger ends up, long story short, releasing him. However, there is someone who is chasing Geiger. And we're going to see his debut in the next issue. Excellent stuff. Excellent. Geiger is one of the books out of the 3 that I am keeping up to date with. I've not read Redcoat yet. Rook, I believe, comes out next week or 2 weeks as of this week's worth of books. So I'm behind on Redcoat. I haven't read Redcoat 1 or 2 yet, and I haven't read Rook issue. Well, Rook issue 2 didn't come out yet. Next up, because I'm going to be catching up with this universe, just like Spawn at some point. Haven't caught up with Spawn yet, but the Energon Universe is something I'm looking to catch up on. G.I. Joe, Void, Rivals, and Transformers. And guess what's in this book? 3 stories connected to... First one is going to be connected to Void Rivals. We get to see the fight between Megatron and Optimus back before they ended up crashing on Earth. And then apparently, spoiler alert, and we haven't seen it in Transformers yet, but Megatron is alive. He is alive and he ends up escaping. I mean, we do get to see a cross with Void Rivals, the characters there. And we also get to see a little teeny cross with G.I. Joe. So Megatron escapes with barely the skin on his teeth. And now he's going after Starscream. Second story connects to Transformers. Apparently, Rodimus is alive, and he's trying to find the Autobots. And then this connects to Void Rivals. So Rodimus is going to be, or Hot Rod is going to be in Void Rivals. I apologize. The Megatron thing connects to what's going to be happening in Transformers. And then we get a really cool team up with Baroness and Duke. And that's leading to things that are going to be going on in G.I. Joe. Baroness looks good in Joe colors, but we all know she ain't going to be staying as a Joe, but this leads into G.I. Joe. I am planning on catching up. I believe G.I. Joe, I'm 3 issues behind. I did actually read the trade paperback for Transformers and the previous 2 issues. We're going to talk about Transformers here in a bit. But I'm planning on trade paperbacking my way up to Void Rivals as well. Now, what else do we got? Christopher Chaos, issue number 9. So it is now 6 months since the first story arc, which, by the way, the first story arc was supposed to be the end of Christopher Chaos. Apparently, the book either got good hits or maybe I misread it and it was just the first arc ending. I thought it was going to end at issue 8. Well, here we are with issue number 9. 6 months later, they're mourning the loss of the, well, we don't know if the person's dead or missing, but either way, they are mourning the person who died in the previous arc, at the end of the previous arc. And the mother still blames them for her child being missing. She doesn't believe that her child is dead at all. We find out, plot twist. You ready for this? She's actually a werewolf. And there are some new students in the school who are from Russia. And it seems that the werewolves are also Russian. Just saying, there could be a connection. The twins could be involved. And Christopher actually wants to open up the Monster Club that he and his 2 friends started to other people other monsters who are looking for a safe haven just like they have. And in this issue, we also get to see them celebrate Christopher's birthday. However, Christopher's adopted. So this is his adoptive birthday, not his actual birthday. He doesn't know when his birthday is. I thought that was really cool and a really nice startup issue again for the series. I would recommend checking out the first 8 issues first, because you're going to be lost. It references a lot of stuff that happened in the previous arc. And again, it's one of those things where arc 2 is taking up right where arc 1 left off. So definitely trade paperback your way up to this. It's a really great series. And I'm not saying that just because my name is Chris. It's really good. And then finally in the independents, we have Transformers issue number 8. Optimus. So, okay. In the previous issue and the previous arc, Starscream killed a lot. That was a huge talking point. I remember talking about this. I did review Transformers issue number 1 in a previous review episode. Starscream killed a lot. And he assumed leadership role of the Decepticons, because until what we just read in Energon Universe, we didn't know where Megatron was. And apparently there was a fight between them and the Autobots. There was a misunderstanding. The humans thought that all the robots were bad. Spike's father ends up sacrificing himself so that the Allspark would keep Optimus alive and allow for him to fix other Autobots. Apparently Optimus lost his arm at one point and then remerged his arm. Again, I wish I had the book. I have it coming. I read it digitally. But apparently he lost his arm and then he ended up taking Megatron's arm, which apparently was in the ship. So he ended up fusing Megatron's left arm to his body. So he now has Megatron's hand, the gigantic cannon attached to his body. But anyway, they're reeling from what happened in the previous issue. And at the end of the last issue, Starscream ended up being taken out by Soundwave. Soundwave is now leading the Decepticons, and their plan in this issue is to get a message out to space. And the Autobots catch wind of it. We get another Autobot that's brought back to life. RC ends up mentoring Carly, who is another person who lost her family because of what the Decepticons did. So now Spike and Carly are kind of a part of the Autobots clan, so to speak. RC ends up mentoring Carly. Spike is stuck in a wheelchair right now because of what happened in the previous arc. So Optimus and the others go off to find out what the Decepticons are doing. And then at the very end of this issue, I don't want to spoil who they reach out to and who answers, but a Decepticon does answer. Looking forward to the next issue. Love the artwork, love the story. And now we go into Marvel, which is going to be very heavy in tie-ins. This is Amazing Spider-Man issue number 49. I grabbed the Stormbreaker variant because it's just nice. John Romita Jr. artwork in this book did not help this book much, but it connects to Blood Hunt. So Rabbit ends up, the White Rabbit ends up being, I guess, turned. And her henchman finds a way to reach out to Spider-Man, begs him to find the person that infected her and to save her and get her turned back to normal. Spider-Man finds the person that turned her, but he doesn't want to be a vampire. He wants it all to end. He was turned himself, honestly, and he just wants it all to be done over with and for himself to be turned back to normal. However, a plot twist. It turns out the henchman ends up taking him out. Why? Here comes your spoiler twist. It wasn't just to save White Rabbit. It was to save himself as well, because apparently White Rabbit ended up biting him and he was about to turn. So this book actually ends where the first part of the miniseries is taking up, and this was literally in the middle of a series. So the next issue, issue 50, different new story arc. The main Spider-Man series will not be connecting to Blood Hunt. We will be getting Green Goblin in the next issue. I'm looking forward to that. But this issue ends with, again, spoiler, Spider-Man coming face to face with the Lizard, to be continued in the miniseries that came out this week. Next, we've got Deadpool issue number 2. This is the black costume variant. Deadpool now owns an office. I'm not going to say how he gets it. Read the beginning of the book. But he owns an office, and now he's looking to take up jobs. And if you saw the cover A, you see that Taskmaster ends up teaming up with him to start his office, to start his business. And they start small. They start off being a bodyguard to a nobody. An absolute nobody. And by the way, I love Princess. Princess is my new favorite supporting character. Marvel, do not get rid of this character. Let them stay. Let her stay with Deadpool forever. The artwork is gorgeous. I love the relationship between Princess and Deadpool. But he does make a reference to the first issue of Deadpool, Wolverine, World War III. He makes a little hint about Wolverine stealing his target in Montreal. So, unless he's talking about issue number 1 now that I think about it, because I can't remember what happened exactly. Anyway, I think it's connected to the miniseries. I could be wrong, but either way, Deadpool ends up coming face to face with somebody. I'm not going to spoil who at the end of this issue, but it turns out that easy case he took to start making money, it just got harder. And we get to see his daughter in this issue, and I absolutely am loving his daughter as well. Looking forward to seeing what happens in the next issue, as his daughter's going to be chasing after him. I have a physical copy of this book because black costume, and hopefully maybe I could continue the series moving forward. Avengers issue number 14, connected to Blood Hunt. And it involves Captain America putting together his own team. You got Hercules, you got Hawkeye, and you got, I forget what you also got Quicksilver. And why can I not remember this other person's name when he says sound off? Here we go. Hazmat. He puts a B team together, and of course, Captain America's involved. So we've got Nazi vampires. We had Nazi zombies. Now we have Nazi vampires. And his team is going up against the Nazi vampires. And of course, the Nazi vampire team is led by a Nazi from his past that has been turned into a vampire. Do you need this to continue the story with Blood Hunt? No. This is what's happening to Captain America and his team of Avengers during Blood Hunt. You don't have to read this book. It's optional. It's if you are reading Avengers. If you're not reading Avengers, you don't need this book. So don't worry. Don't worry about it. Don't buy I'm telling all of you now, don't buy every single book. Do not buy every single book that's coming out for Blood Hunt. Read what you love reading with the characters you love reading. Don't go and get all 60, unless you're a completionist. If you're a completionist, go get all 60 comics that are connected to Blood Hunt. But if you're not a completionist, if you're just a casual reader, read what you like and don't read what you don't like. Next book, digital book. It is Dracula Blood Hunt issue number 1. Dracula teaming up with Blade's daughter to put a stop to the vampire armies attacking the world. Because Dracula, of course, is not involved in what's going on. So he needs Blade's daughter's help in order to stop what's going on currently. Artwork was really good. Blade's daughter now has a buff in power because of the sun being pushed out and all the dark from the dark matter universe coming in. She got a buff in powers, and you see that at the beginning of the issue too. I liked it. I'll probably end up continuing it, but again, I'm reading it just because I'm reading Blood Hunt. I would say it's an average read. For me, it was an average read. Next up, and I'm probably going to continue this book physically for a bit, was Doctor Strange issue number 15. Now, this is a book, and it's written by Jed MacKay, I believe, also. This is the book. If you're going to read anything that's tied into Blood Hunt, you're going to want to read Doctor Strange, especially after the end of issue number 1. And yes, it is by Jed MacKay, and the artwork is by Pascal Ferry. So we get a little bit more involved or we get a little bit more details to why Blade turned, because yes, he did, spoiler alert, turn Doctor Strange. If you remember, at the end of Blood Hunt issue number 1, Doctor Strange was about to find a way to cast a spell to eliminate every single vampire in the world, all of them, to cut off a limb to save the world, as a doctor. Well, now he's a vampire himself. So now Blade knows that his wife will not do it because she will not be willing to sacrifice her husband in order to save the rest of the world. Ha ha, hee hee, Blade disappears, evil laugh. But she uses a spell and is able to pull Doctor Strange's soul out of his body. So his body is still infested with, the vampire virus. However, he now, in astrological form, can exist and help figure out what's going on. And him and his wife figure out that this is something that Blade wanted to do on purpose, and there's something else. It's to keep their mind or to keep them busy while his real plan is being put into motion. We also get to see Moon Knight, Tiger, and Miles Spider-Man show up. So there's a small group gathering in Doctor Strange's place, but now we also have Doctor Strange's now husk of a body, still a vampire, still looking to do vampire things, and I wonder if somebody's going to free his body. We'll find out. I'll still be reading Doctor Strange. Really good issue. And again, it's by Jed MacKay, so of course this is going to have a more strong tie-in to what's going on with Blood Hunt. Now, I decided to try out Strange Academy Blood Hunt issue number 1. Artwork was really good. Dr. Voodoo is the leader of the Strange Academy, the principal, the whatever. I don't know the characters. I do like we get a backstory about one of the characters who's a vampire, but she has this little spirit that could connect, that can go on her body and prevent her body from burning in the sun. But we see how the kids are dealing with what's going on as the vampires are attacking. And Doctor Strange shows up in Strange Academy. Surprise, surprise. And he's actually still looking to do what him and his wife said they weren't going to do in this issue, but I guess they are going to do, in getting the spell to possibly eliminate all of the vampires. And he's looking for Dr. Voodoo's help. And the kids hear it while they were eavesdropping, and they decide to go off and find the book. However, they end up in a lot of trouble. Another book that was connected to Blood Hunt that I decided not to is Venom. You can check it out if you want. As I mentioned, I'm not reading everything Blood Hunt. Strange Academy, I will try issue number 2, but it's the weaker of all the tie-ins right now to Blood Hunt for me. So if there's a book I might end up dropping, it probably will be Strange Academy. I I glanced over Venom. I decided no. So finally, last book, Blood Hunters, issue number 1, is a 3-story book. It's not a team up. It's a book. So apparently Hawkeye's on the run, and I'm going to make fun of it, but the mustache is so stupid. Because I started reading the book, and I'm like, why does Hawkeye now have a mustache? Apparently he's on the run. Then vampires attack. Then he gets a bunch of people together, and they fight the vampires. And, yeah. Again, this is more like side stories. Do you have to read it? No. Did I enjoy reading it a lot? Obviously, I'm holding a physical copy. Yes, I wanted to try it, and I was very happy with it. My favorite story, though, is J. Jonah Jameson and his son, Werewolf. And I love how he gets bit, and J. Jonah Jameson's about to stab him with a stake, and he's like, Dad, I'm a werewolf. Which means if I get bit by a vampire, I can't get turned because I'm already a werewolf. Beautiful artwork for this story. I'm not going to show that page. I loved how he's like, on one planet I was considered a god, and he's just making easy work of all the vampires. And then my least favorite story had to be Dagger. It's just her, same thing. All of the characters are just dealing with the vampire invasion, except Elsa Bloodstone shows up at the end of the issue to team up with Dagger. I believe we'll probably get more of Dagger's story in the next issue. Although I don't see her here. I do see Elsa, though. So we'll see. We'll see if we continue with Elsa or something at some point. But, oh no, here we go. Yeah, Elsa, Kate Bishop, Dagger, Hulk. So Dagger will be in the next issue as well. But otherwise, the other 2 stories, maybe at the end of the miniseries, they'll all come together, possibly, in the last issue. Still good. Love the artwork of this book. However, my book of the week when it comes to this week goes to Deadpool. I loved it. And independent book was definitely Ain't No Grave, because I didn't even know until I read it that I loved it so. So we're going to go back to doing one thing that I stopped doing a long while ago. We're going to start doing it again. And that's the round out at the very end of the episode. So we're at the end of the episode. Let's round out the books one more time. Blood Hunters, issue number 1. Pretty good. Definitely something worth checking out, especially if you like some side stories with Blood Hunt. If not, when it comes to anything Blood Hunt, again, it's your choice. Pick the characters you like to read, skip the characters that you're either behind on, like me with Venom, or that you don't like to read. Strange Academy Blood Hunt, the first issue of the miniseries. Interesting. We'll see where issue 2 goes before I decide whether I'm going to keep it or drop it. Doctor Strange, issue number 15. Really good. I'm probably going to keep reading it until the end of Blood Hunt, and then we'll see if I continue reading the series moving forward. Dracula Blood Hunt, issue number 1. Again, another weaker one. We'll see where issue 2 goes before I decide whether I'm keeping it or not. But again, it's Dracula, so I might kind of give it an extra issue before I decide whether I'm going to drop it or not. We'll see. Avengers issue number 14, really good. Cap versus vampire Nazis. Who didn't see it coming? But I'm using it as my gateway to get back into Avengers. Deadpool issue number 2, really good. Loving Deadpool. Great to have Deadpool back. Amazing Spider-Man 49. A 1-issue tie-in that's going to lead into the miniseries tying into Blood Hunt. Interesting. Transformers issue number 8. Excellent. I've been loving Transformers. I'm glad I finally was able to catch up. If you're not reading it, you really should. Image is doing amazing work with the series. Christopher Chaos issue number 9. Again, really good book. I'm enjoying it. Try it out. Energon Universe 2024 one-shot, annual, whatever we're going to call, special. 2024 special. Really good if you're in the Energon Universe reading G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Void Rivals. 3 stories that give little teasers to what's going on in all 3 of those books. Geiger issue number 2, really good. Out of the 3 titles, Geiger's the one that's been holding me the most. And that was, and then Ain't No Grave issue number 1, read it. Really good. Loved it. That was May 8th. Now we're going into May 1st. Blood Hunt issue number 1 was my book of the week. Definitely worth trying the first issue. Give it a shot. Why not? Deadpool Wolverine World War III issue number 1. Spectacular as well. Definitely check that out. Superman House of Brainiac special. The only reason you'd be reading it is if you are reading House of Brainiac, the entire series, which I do recommend. I'm loving it so far. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Loving it. 3 parts in, well, 2.5 parts in already. Space Ghost issue number 1. Highly recommended. Definitely my indie book of the week. Loved it a lot. The Whisper Queen issue number 1. Really, really good. I definitely enjoyed that. And then Dick Tracy, which did not come out the week of May 1st, but I would still say give it a shot. Really good stuff as well. And I did miss out on one book, so I'm going to talk about it right now really quickly. I'm so sorry. I missed it on the list because I read it digitally. Blood Brothers Mother. I'll put a little asterisk at the bottom of the review to mention. I talked about it now. I wasn't expecting to like this book either. However, a man gets out of jail after being stuck in jail for, I believe it was either 5 or 10 years. He comes out. He goes after his girlfriend to find her because they're going to get back together. Apparently, she's married with child. Ends up telling the husband, I'm leaving with him. She leaves with him. The husband tries to stop her. Husband doesn't make it. However, the kids did. Good title. Interesting to see what the kids are going to do next because I think this was all a setup for what we're going to be reading from issue 2 on. Excellent book as well. Well, definitely something to give a check out too. Sorry for missing it. That book did come out on May 1st though. But with that, that's it for this jumbled returning episode. Thank you all so much for being here. Links in the description below for all my social medias and all other places you can find me. As always, if you're new to the channel, click the sub button. This way, this video and any video I do is in your sub box and you won't miss out on a single video. Speaking of, though, if you don't want to miss out on a single video, there's also a bell down there to notify you when new videos come out. Click it if you want to be notified. And again, thumbs up, thumbs down. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, feel free to give it a thumbs down. Till next time, everybody, thank you all so much for sticking with me through this long episode. The next episode, hopefully, will be just 1 week, the 3rd week of May. We'll hope for it. Keep our fingers crossed. Till then, take care. Keep reading, keep collecting, and I will see all of you really soon in the next video.